Shalom, all praise the How Bashim Shah, double line the Apostle GMS. This is Anna Allah coming at you in the video. And in this video, I want to be focusing on, I want to finish this lesson up on the Apostle Paul and the Roman citizenship. So this is going to be the final part. I was going to give a little more history on the citizenship thing, and that's going to be the end of this. So I'm going to start from verse 24. I read this whole chapter already. I'm just giving you further insight on verse 25 and 26. So let's go back to this. Acts 22, verse 24, I'll start from there. The chief captain commanded him to be brought into the castle, talking about the castle at Antonia, and bade that he should be examined by scourging. In other words, they were trying to extract the confession from the Apostle Paul by scourging him, by whipping him, that he might know wherefore they cried so against him, that he may know why the Jews are making these accusations against the Apostle Paul. And as they bound him with thongs, meaning leather straps, Paul said unto the centurion that stood by, Is it lawful for you to scourge a man that is a Roman and uncondemned? When the centurion heard that, he went and told the chief captain, saying, Take heed what thou doest, for this man is a Roman. Why did he say this? Then the chief captain came and said unto him, Tell me, art thou a Roman? He said, Yea. Now why would he say this? I had already went to this channel here. It speaks about the Valerian, this page here, the Valerian and Porcian laws. The Valerian and Porcian laws were passed between Rome's founding in 509 BC and 195 BC. They exempted Roman citizens from degrading and shameful forms of punishment, such as scourging with rods or whips, and especially crucifixion. They also established certain rights for Roman citizens, such as the right to appeal to the plebeian tribunes called the provocatio. So, based upon the Valerian and Porcian laws, Roman citizens were exempted from degrading and shameful forms of punishment, such as scourging with rods or whips, and especially crucifixion. Now, once again, a Roman citizen can be sentenced to death. They can be punished for crimes like parricide or treason. In rare cases, those things could occur. Let me read a little bit more. Jump down here. It says, nonetheless, the Valerian law the Valerian law was not kept on the books throughout the 500 years of the Roman Republic. Indeed, Titus Livy states that the Valerian law was enacted again for the third time in 299 BC. Livy notes that in all three cases the law was enacted by the Valerius family. Furthermore, Livy notes that should a magistrate disregard the Valerian law, his only reproof was that his act be deemed unlawful and wicked. So, if you broke that Valerian law, that's looked at as being wicked, unlawful and wicked. This implies that the Valerian law was not so very effective in defending the plebeians. The Porcian laws, of which were three, so you may have some people that have broke that law, and scored Roman citizens. But it says the Porcian laws, of which there were three, provided stricter sanctions against those magistrates who failed to uphold the Valerian law. The first of these laws was named after P. Porcius Laeca, and was authorized by Cato the Elder in 199 or 195 BC. The Porcian law of the 190s BC stated that a citizen in Rome could escape death by voluntary exile. The third Porcian law extended the right of protection and appeal for the Roman citizen outside Roman city limits and throughout the military district. So the Roman citizen was to be protected if they were outside Roman city limits or throughout the military districts of Rome. This is indicated by numismatic evidence in the form of a Roman coin that was minted in 104 BC or thereabouts. Up to this time, it is probable that the provincial authorities had unmitigated coercitio. That's basically it there. And it said Roman authorities was probable to have had unmitigated coercitio, which means the right held by every magistrate with imperium and compelling reluctant citizens to obey his orders and decrees by inflicting punishment. So it's probable that magistrates may have had that right at that time. But let's continue. And one more thing, it also mentioned this. It says another law that was passed with the intention of protecting citizens from severe punishment at the hands of governors and magistrates is the Lex Julia Divi Publica, passed around 50 BC. And it says, yet this law for all practical purposes is only a restatement of the right of appeal present in the Valerian and Porcian laws, which that means like Julian laws or something like that. Look at that real quick, and then I'm going to go continue the lesson. I'm not trying to get into all this. This shouldn't be that long. Make sure it's on record, okay. Give me 1 second. See, this says Lex Julia was an ancient Roman law that was introduced by any member of the Julian family. That's it on that. Let's go back. Check this out. It says Roman law, the art of the fair and good. And it says Roman citizens were treated differently by the law to those who did not have Roman citizenship: slaves, freemen, foreigners, women. The protections that citizenship granted were extensive. Paul was a Roman citizen, and as he was born in a city that had been granted Roman status, especially Tarsus, Peter was not, as he was born in Galilee. Both men were sentenced to execution for practicing Christianity. Now let's go right here. It says Eusebius Historia Ecclesiastica. Right? And it says here, it is therefore recorded that Paul was beheaded in Rome itself, and that Peter likewise was crucified under Nero. As his crucifixion was considered the most shameful way of execution, reserved for slaves, pirates, enemies of the state. And this from the University of Cambridge School Classics Project. It says, how do the passages show the power of the protection of Roman citizenship? It says, source 2, Cicero and Verus. In 70 BC, the Roman orator Cicero prosecuted Verus, the Roman governor of Sicily, for malpractice and cruelty while in office. Cicero claimed that Verus had ordered a Roman citizen, Gavius, to be stripped and beaten and then crucified. And it tells you what Cicero here said in Latin on the left in this gray box, and it's telling you the translation on the right. You confess, and this is the translation, Cicero in Verum, which in Verum, I'll get to that real quick. You confess that he did cry out that he was a Roman citizen, or civis Romanissum, but that the name of citizenship was not able to dissuade you, wasn't able to convince you. In other words, to not sentence him to be beaten and crucified, but that the name of citizenship was not able to dissuade you, or even so much as cause the least hesitation in your mind, or even any brief cessation of your most cruel and repulsive punishment. It is a crime to bind a Roman citizen. To flog him is a wickedness. To put him to death is almost parricide. What shall I say of crucifying him? So guilty an action cannot by any possibility be adequately expressed by any name and bad enough for it. And this thing between Cicero and Verus was a whole big thing, was a whole big court case. It was in an extortion court in Rome. Here it says, trial of Gaius Verus, governor of Sicily. It said the trial of Gaius Verus, governor of Sicily, for fraud in 70 BCE is the best described and source presented event showing the degree of corruption of Roman officials in the use of the provinces for their own selfish needs and the desire to get rich. The main source of information about Verus himself in the trial came from the preserved letters and accusatory speeches of Cicero, because Cicero was a quaestor, which we'll get into that, and he was a lawyer as well. And there's letters, documents, preserved letters and documents of Cicero's accusatory speeches against Verus in court. In other words, the case that he had built up against Verus in court. No notes or notes have survived from the defense side. Naturally, this raises the suspicion of a one-sided depiction of history, but even ignoring many of Cicero's dubious claims, it is certain that Verus was an example of a man corrupt and exploiting the inhabitants of Sicily on a large scale. So it speaks about him a bit. It says, Gaius Verus was born 114 BC into a senatorial family. According to Cicero, Verus' father could also boast about corrupt activities, but not on the scale of his son. We don't have any information about Verus' mother, the young aristocrat. Certainly, like other well-born people, went through the next levels of education. He reportedly showed a willingness to indulge in debauchery, probably also in his adolescence. His admiration for art arose in him, which during his governorship turned into a real obsession. Okay? So it's a lot of information here. It says Verus' first office was a quaestor. What's a quaestor? What is that? Real quick, a quaestor is an official in the Roman Republic. The name of this office comes from the word to follow, quaerere. Position of a quaestor was the first. It's a lot of information here. Okay, it's not that much. It says the position of a quaestor was the first office taken by a Roman in his political career at the age of 30 after 10 years of military service. Okay? I'm going to jump right down. It says the quaestors acted at different levels of government. And so there were curule quaestors called city quaestors who looked after the state archives, guarded the keys of the state treasury, accepted payments, and made payments at the request of the Senate. And I'm right down. It says, during the early republic, they served as an investigative judges as investigative judges and public prosecutors in criminal cases. They were appointed by consuls to assist in fulfilling their duties. Later, the quaestor dealt with the administration of the public treasury, entrusting his judicial powers to the aediles and tribunes. Generally, their functions are supervision of the state treasury, collection and distribution of money, tax collection, management of the military treasury, payment of wages, sale of loot, etc. So basically, a quaestor goal functions were supervision of the state treasury and collection and distribution of money, tax collection, and management of military treasury. So that's what this guy was. But let's go on. Let's read a little bit more. So that was his what does it say? Go back. That was his first office in 84 BCE. Scroll down. Let's go to his governorship. We'll go right to the point. There's a lot of good information. I'm going to the point. It says, this was when he was a governor of Sicily. Sicily was an important Roman province that provided the state with enormous grain supplies and was sometimes referred to as the storehouse of the empire. The assumption of the governorship of Sicily by Gaius Verus in 73 BCE was a real ennoblement, and for himself a great opportunity to enrich himself. For 3 years of his reign, Verus, in line with Cicero's speech, committed the following offenses. So in Cicero's speech, in Cicero's accusatory statements in court against Gaius Verus, he accused him of the abuse of judicial powers, the enforcement of agricultural taxes, confiscation of works of art in private and public goods. Remember, he had an obsession for art, and mismanagement of the fleet and unlawful judgment. Mismanagement. Remember, the job of a quaestor was what? The distribution of, go back up real quick. The job of the quaestor was what again? Let's go back. I want you to think, we'll just hurry up and go to the page. Was what? Supervision of the state treasury, collection and distribution of money, and tax collection. Those are his duties, but he had abused that. Okay? He had abused that. Continuing on, it says, in the case of judicial abuses, Verus showed real disrespect. He ordered to pay himself bribes if he wanted to obtain a favorable sentence. He intimidated judges during the trial and threatened them with death, falsified court records, the number of witnesses, ordered a false testimony to be made, decided about the choice of priests. Moreover, Verus ordered the Sicilian cities to set aside money to build public statues. The part of the money that was not used was transferred to the private account of the governor. So he was basically like a thief. He was extorting them. Here go right here. It says, realizing the agricultural wealth of the island, Verus decided to raise money also from this sector of the economy. Until now in Sicily and Sardinia, annual tithes, decumae, have been collected on crops, mainly wheat and barley, with constant value. So guess what? There were tithes that was collected on crops, mainly wheat and barley. Remember, Sicily was known as what? It was known as the storehouse of the empire. So he was taking this money and putting taxes on wheat, taxes on the empire, taxes on wheat, and taxes on the barley in Sicily, because Sicily was known as the storehouse of the empire. So here he's abusing his judicial powers and his enforcement. He's enforcing these agricultural taxes. These are things that he's doing. Generally speaking, the greater the yield, the greater the portion of the harvest had to be handed over to the state. So the greater the yield of crops, the greater portion would be handed over to the state. However, this system was changed after Verus, who chose a certain Apronius as the head of the decumani. So he had this person here, Apronius. Lucius Apronius was a Roman senator and suffect consul in 8 AD. So this is what he was. So he set him over the tax. From now on, it was Verus' charge who decided on the amount of the crop tax. So he started to decide how much the crop tax was, under the threat of up to a 4-fold increase in tax. So the tax was a threat. It was a threat. Alright, I'm back. I had to pause the video. So it was even a threat of a 4-fold increase in tax. The result of this change was that Verus and his charges grew rich and farmers became poorer. Don't mind those little pop-up things, those ads. It's a lot of stuff there. According to Cicero's message, Sicilian farmers thought they were lucky when they were not obliged to pay 3 times the tax they used to pay before Verus' arrival. Let me go right to the point. I'm gonna go right to the point. And this is the trial. A lot of that's good information, but I'm basically gonna close. I'm gonna read a little bit more here, then I'm gonna close. Let me see something real quick. There's a lot of other wicked stuff that he did. It mentions there was no end to his tricks and ways to loot valuable property. Verus tried in every possible way to become the owner of the selected work of art. Not only private owners were robbed, but also public property. So these are things that he was doing. And it says, the trial of Gaius Verus. Soon after Verus left Sicily in 71 BCE, the island's representative arrives in Rome with an official motion against their former governor. So guess what? They say, yo, man, the representative of the island of Sicily said, we going to Rome with a motion against our former governor. We want to bring this guy up on charges. This possibility was guaranteed by the Lex Calpurnia, established in 149 BC on the basis of this legal basis. On the basis of this legal basis, the convicted official was obliged to pay 250% of the proven amount he had obtained as a result of fraud and looting. The Sicilians also asked the Roman lawyer and speaker, Cicero, to take the position of the prosecutor in this case. It is worth adding that the inhabitants of the island remember the senator as a good and effective quaestor from 75 BC who held his office in the Lilybaeum district, so that he was a quaestor too. After Verus. And they remember how good he was. So it said for 36-year-old Cicero, it was an opportunity to gain fame at the expense of his main rival in Rome, the lawyer of Hortensius, the defender of Verus. So Hortensius was the one that defended Verus in this trial. In 70 BC, the case against Verus was officially brought to court. The main judge was Manius Acilius Glabrio, whose person, in Cicero's opinion, was impeccable. As his office ended on December 31st, 70 BCE, the main purpose of the defense was to postpone hearings. So Hortensius, who defended Verus, wanted to postpone the hearings because he knew that Manius Glabrio was the main judge. So they wanted to postpone the hearings past December 31st, 70 BCE, so they wouldn't have to deal with him as being the judge. Hortensius hoped that in the new year, the judge would be a person with more corrupt inclinations. Moreover, a new prosecutor was put forward, Quintus Caecilius Niger. Under Roman law, the prosecutor was not chosen by the state but by the flood. In order to clearly state whether Cicero or Niger would lead the case as a prosecutor, it was necessary to appear and persuade the Sicilians to pursue claims before the court. It was the so-called divinatio. On January 15, 70 BCE, Cicero gave a fiery speech in which he argued why it was he and not Niger to represent the Sicilians. In the end, Cicero's arguments, not his rival, gained approval, and Cicero officially became the prosecutor of the trial. Okay, and it said it was chosen by the where was it at? Not chosen by the state, but by the flood. Which the flood more than likely would have to be the plebeians, the common people. Not chosen by the state, but by the flood of the common people, which were the common people were plebeians. And it's a lot of information here that I'm not going to get into, but basically Cicero won the trial. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is and in the midst of this trial, he brought up what I read here in this document, where it said you confess that he did cry out that he was a Roman citizen, because in this trial he mentioned that in 70 BC the Roman orator Cicero prosecuted Verus, the Roman governor of Sicily, for malpractice and cruelty while in office, and he claimed that Verus had ordered a Roman citizen named Gavius to be stripped, beaten, and then crucified. So in the midst of this, he's bringing about all of the things that wickedness that Verus had done. He said, there was even someone named Gavius who cried out he was a Roman citizen, or rather cried out civis Romanissum. And as a Roman citizen, based upon the Valerian and Porcian laws, you wouldn't have to be scourged, whipped, and crucified as a Roman citizen. You were protected with those rights. Yet he violated those rights, which the people of Rome, this is a whole big case. The people of Rome knew about this. So when the Apostle Paul declared Roman citizenship, this is one of the first things that popped up in their head. Oh shoot, that's a dangerous thing. And it said that he said it was a crime to bind a Roman citizen. Did not the Apostle Paul say, is it lawful for you to bound a Roman citizen or scourge a Roman citizen uncondemned? He said in Acts 16 that they were bound, right? And so and he mentioned him and Paul. It was him and Silas. So Silas had to have had Roman citizenship as well. And this is from a flashcard study of Cicero under the rulership of Sylla, who was a Roman statesman. It said under Sylla's reform, quaestors, which Cicero was at one time, now had life and membership of the Senate. Sicily was an important supply of grain from Rome. He was lenient towards the Sicilians and believed in justice by making sure they received fair payment by clerks. He gained popularity with the Sicilians and acquired friendship with important Sicilians who had connections in Rome. He could expand his client list, example, with the Roman tax farmers, traders, local aristocracy, etc. So he was very popular among the people. And I'm ending with this here. Well, actually, I'm not going to end this here. This right here is the image of Romulus and Remus being suckled by a she-wolf, which Rome was named after Romulus. And it says, it says vita-rome.com. How did the Romans prove this Roman citizenship? Slight information here, but let me jump right down to the point. I don't want to be on this site all day. Give me 1 second. It says, tribal list, Roman census, birth certificates, grants of citizenship. The census, from the Latin word censere, was carried out every 5 years and identified Roman citizens. Its objective was to register all citizens and their property in order to levy taxes on them. The first census dates back from the Roman 6th century BC during the Roman kingdom, in the reign of King Servius Tullius. When the number of Roman citizens was only circa 80,000, the censor was an official whose role was to maintain the census, oversee certain aspects of the government's finances, and supervise public morality. Regimen morum. Hence the modern meaning of the word censorship. The power of the censor was absolute and no other magistrate could oppose his decisions. Okay, jump down. Here, go here. It says if a person's Roman citizenship was in doubt or proof of citizenship was needed for a transaction, an inquiry could easily be made to verify the name on the list from the last census. So when they possibly claimed that he was a Roman citizen, they could have more than likely went and did that background check to see if what he said was true. Witnesses, usually individuals from the tribe, would also have to confirm that you are the person in question, bearing always in mind that pictures were not available back then. Once in a while, a freeman, libertus, or even a foreigner posing as a toga citizen, because only Roman citizens were allowed to wear the toga, to put that out there too, was ferreted out in the census. The punishment for falsely claiming Roman citizenship was very severe. According to Suetonius, it was death by having your head removed with an axe. The Romans took citizenship very seriously. It says birth certificates, birth registration was introduced during the reign of Augustus, 27 BC to 14 AD. So it was introduced in 4 AD. A Roman citizen will register the birth of his child within 30 days before a Roman official. It was not mandatory like the census, and someone who did not register did not automatically lose his citizenship. The citizen would receive a wooden diptych with wax surfaces on the inside, which acted both as the birth certificate and the certificate of citizenship for the child. The wooden diptych was 7 inches high and 6 inches wide. Written on the wax surfaces were the date of birth, the name of 7 witnesses, and the abbreviation Q.P.7, and add K. The letter CRE meant Caelum Romanium Num Exscript, indicating the possession of Roman citizenship. The diptych could be used for life to prove citizenship and was written only in Latin until the time of Emperor Severus, 222 to 235 BCE. And here's an example of a military diploma, or like a diptych. Here's an example of it. And there's other stuff here, grants of citizenship for soldiers, provincials, freed slaves, and things of that nature. And it says, how did Roman citizens prove their citizenship while traveling abroad? What if they were abroad? Before addressing this question, it is worth noting that most Roman citizens did not travel much. Jump right to the point. Oh yeah, read on. It says, well, that's good. It says in ancient Rome, it says you were seldom rich traveling outside of Rome's territory. You could be captured and enslaved unless you personally knew people that could protect you there. Once again, civis romanus could protect you. It says, to prove their Roman citizenship abroad, Romans could produce the grant of citizenship or their birth certificate, which both were in the form of previously mentioned diptych, which was small enough for citizens to carry when they were out of town, so the Apostle Paul could have been carrying it on them. If there were doubts regarding the person claiming to be a citizen or document itself, witnesses could be called. And even right here it says, however, it was not always easy to find witnesses far away in the provinces. For example, in 70 BC, Verus, the corrupt governor of Sicily, did we just read about that? Questioned Gavius' citizenship claim. Gavius, a Roman citizen of Compspa, had protested about Verus' treatment of Roman citizens. According to Cicero, Gavius cried out that he was a Roman citizen and that he had served in the Roman army under the Roman knight Lucius Ricius, who was in Panhomerus, today's Palmyra Palermo at the time. Gavius was executed nevertheless by means of crucifixion, a type of execution forbidden for Roman citizens. And it speaks about him had to face the consequences when he was tried. Okay. In the aftermath of that trial, according to the verdict, Verus was sentenced to exile in Massalia, where he died after 27 years. And it's the same website, Imperium Romanium. See here it says livius.org diploma, Roman expression for an official act, especially a documented granted citizen rights to a man that who has served 25 years in the auxiliary unit. Gives you right there information. The Latin word diploma is derived from the Greek word diplo, to fold, and can be used to describe all sorts of folded documents, including impressive diptychs of ivory and ordinary pieces of papyrus or parchment. So it can be pieces of papyrus or parchment. However, the expression is especially used to describe an official sealed document written by a magistrate or a private person. Letters, signed declarations, passport, check copies, vouchers, and wills can all be called diploma. And it says, according to the senatorial decree that is mentioned by the Roman author Suetonius, diplomas were only to be accepted when they were signed that had been bound by a cord and had thrice passed through the holes. So it was a certain way that had to be carried, that had to be bounded. There are several elements that made the document official: the name of the man who gave the diploma, example, the emperor; the people who received it, the act itself, example, granting of rights; further specifications, the date, the names of the witnesses who had to be Roman citizens. Some good information there. It gives you other examples of a diploma. Now, when I was looking up Roman diplomas, I even found this here on Twitter, which I don't have a Twitter. When you type it on Google, like Roman diploma Twitter, this will pop up. It says the best preserved Roman military diploma to survive from the ancient world. And it's a bronze legal documents. And some of them, see how it says there, bronze? And here's some examples. See that? That's pretty good there. And I'm gonna end it here. This is from a National Geographic website. Now, when you go on National Geographic and you go on the you look up an article, you're going to look at it for so long, and then eventually it'll ask you, do you want to subscribe? Just like that Twitter page I just showed you through the spirit. You go on there for too long, you scroll too far down, it's gonna tell you to sign up for Twitter. But I managed to type in this, copy and paste what I could from that National Geographic website before that thing popped up. And I looked it up and I pasted it on Google, and I managed to find it on the website. So it says, in ancient Rome, citizenship was the path to power. Rome's vestal virgins, protectors of the city's sacred flame. I'll read about a little bit, and that's it. It says, from the Roman Republic to the Empire, Civitas full Roman citizenship was prized by those who had it and coveted by those who did not. A denarius from the late 2nd century. Let me just jump down. Right here it says, later in Roman history, Romans could declare pride in their state by using a slightly different formulation, civius Romanissum, which means I am a Roman citizen. This phrase was not only an expression of deeply felt national pride, but also a declaration that an individual had special status within the world and was a recipient of rights and privileges granted in return for weighty obligations. Okay? But before that, you had Gaius Mucius Scaevola, who was a legendary Roman hero. Okay? And he was attempt to assassinate the enemy in the Etruscan king, but when he was captured, instead of pleading for clemency, he yelled out Romanissum, meaning I am a Roman citizen, before delivering a stirring speech on the bravery of his people. The king was so impressed that the story goes, he let Scaevola go, but as time went on, you would say civis Romanissum, I am a Roman citizen, and there would be different rights that you would have. It's a lot of different things here. This website is actually good. I'm not going to read the stuff here. I only want to go to the point. No, I only want to go to the point. Wait 1 second, and you brothers here see me scroll down. If you want to read this, you could just, slow the video down and look at it yourself. Okay. Wait 1 second. Bear me 1 second. In fact, let me scroll all the way down so you brothers can get the whole thing. And then I'm going to go back up to the point that I want to get. That is a long... You know what? That's a long thing here. I don't even think all of this is going into wrong no more. Yeah, so let me go back up. Bear me 1 second so I can get to what it is that I want to read so I can end this video. Okay. It says the most famous example of a citizen invoking this right is the Apostle Paul, born a Jew in 4 BC in Tarsus in modern-day Turkey. Paul, Latinized form of his Hebrew name Saul, was a Roman citizen. Following his arrest by the Romans in AD 59, Paul used his status to dramatically hold his trial before Porcius Festus, the governor of Judea, because you also had the right to an appeal as well as a Roman citizen. It says Festus, when he had conferred, I jumped down. It says I'll keep reading. Festus, when he had conferred with the council, answered, "You have appealed to Caesar. To Caesar you shall go." Acts 25:12. Paul was transferred to Rome, where he stayed for several years before his martyrdom there. Alright? Let me get one more thing. Right here it says, citizenship simplified and improved Romans' everyday lives in different ways. It also offered protection. When Gaius Verus, the governor of Sicily, was on trial for extortion in 70 BC, the orator and lawyer Cicero, orator is a person like a speaker, acting as prosecutor, appealed to the rights inherent in citizenship to strengthen his case against the governor. Cicero described the severe punishment Verus had inflicted on a prisoner. Despite the victim repeatedly insisting that he was a Roman citizen, a status that should have protected him from torture, so persuasive was Cicero's arguments against Verus that he was exiled. So he wanted to get in exile like we read. So with that, I'm going to close. I'm going to say, oh, praise Yahweh Shema Shah. I hope you brothers learned something. And I'm going to say, Shalom till next time.